Welcome, everyone, and
You get the countdown.
He said live on the mic.
Here, that
Right.
means that's a warning. Like,
You'll get the 5, 4,
Don't say anything
3.
obscene.
Yes, now we're being recorded.
I'm about to.
Everybody relax.
Here we go. 5, 4, 3.
Welcome, everyone, and pull up a seat at the table. It's Lunchtime in Rome. Tonight's episode 214, entitled Georgi. Georgi is a quick and sharp-witted friend with a strong sense of self and a trademark style of crafting a message that cuts through all the noise. She's funny, direct, loyal, and always up for a challenge. Pull up a seat at the table and join us. First-time listeners can subscribe on your favorite podcast app or watch us live or later at youtube.com/@lunchtimeinrome. Visit us at lunchtimeinrome.com, and while there, you can take our relational needs questionnaire. Make sure to follow us on all social media, and it would be great if you would give us a 5-star review. Hey, Jay, what specifically is this podcast about?
Being alone is the worst. Good times aren't as good, and bad times are worse when you're all alone. Romans 12:15 says to rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. That is how we keep people from being alone and what this podcast is all about. We demonstrate that in the first 15 minutes of the podcast, and we talk about it for the rest. So while it may not be 12:15 in Rome, we're treating it like it is lunchtime in Rome. And Georgie nailed it. She's the first guest at the table who didn't go, why are they yelling?
We prepped her while you were in the bathroom.
Oh, did you?
This is true. Don't spoil it.
I used to think of Georgie up here, and now it's
She's just that
down here.
good.
Closer to my actual height, so
Let's keep track of height jokes. 1.
bingo.
We're doing people bingo. I love it. I love it.
Bingo, yes.
Yeah, we should
Podcast
have a
people bingo.
podcast bingo sheet.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'll make one for the next time.
So I'm excited. I can't tell you. I've never been more excited that Brian is sick.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, we hope you feel, at least I hope you feel better. I don't know if we.
I think you can be happy that he's sick and hope he gets better.
Yeah,
What kind of a
I hope he
sociopath
gets
are
better
you?
tomorrow. It's fine.
Sure,
Yeah.
but you're excited because
I'm usually the guy who doesn't sit in when we have others at the table than the normal crew, and I'm here. So
yeah, it's exciting.
I am. I'm very excited.
kinda
I had
scary.
I had people bingo. I had meet Chris on my people bingo card.
There
So
it is.
check. Checkity check. That
might-
wasn't even the free space. That was a whole different.
No, you've earned that.
No,
have.
it'll cost you. Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh.
terrific.
No, I don't know what that means.
But you do.
I guess I'll find out later.
Many have.
Everybody pays a little when they have to do
A little off the top for the boss, man.
It's fine.
I don't know. Keep going.
I had we're just coming out of Memorial Day weekend or
Or Labor Day.
Labor Day. It's one of those bookend.
They're the same holiday.
Yeah, exactly.
Something with a flag and
Yeah.
Wow, that's
School
we are
coming and
not
going.
doing well for
Red, white,
veterans
blue,
and or those who have
such.
paid it all or those who work hard. Chris.
We busy but awesome weekend. We went and saw Pitt's first game against Wofford. It was a close contest.
Yeah.
Not
Until it
sarcasm,
kicked off.
sarcasm.
yeah. But I mean that was expected. And so Pitt did what they were expected to do, which was nice. But for us, of course, we were there for the band. And my son plays trombone in the Pitt band. For those of you who don't know, so he is he's a junior this year. He's a squad leader, which means he's in charge of like a small group of trombone players.
What do they call themselves?
Which
The trombone section.
Trombone Thugs and Harmony.
I'm not sure where you're going. I don't know.
Oh, the tromboners.
They do?
Oh, tell me you don't know that.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
That's your own son. Do you talk to him?
Have you met him?
To.
Ever heard of him?
I don't think he's ever said tromboner to me.
Oh gosh, yes.
He saved that one for
sorry.
his friend.
Maybe he was embarrassed. Maybe he's like, yeah.
And
I'm
what
not
a
gonna tell
great
my dad.
picture of Ben and his girlfriend Claudia.
Yeah, yeah. He has
Did they line up their uniforms to do that on purpose?
You know what? Speaking of height, I think it's got to be a sign, right? Like she is the perfect height where the stripe coming up on her uniform matches the lower stripe on his.
Oh,
and it's
my
like,
goodness.
picture perfect. Is that what you're pulling up?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. That
Just like
is
one-
fabulous.
One stripe,
I mean,
right?
how does that
One
work?
stripe.
How does that work? It just does.
And they always do the Pit Band. I mean, they're awesome, and they always do a pregame concert like outside of of Acrisure Stadium, so we like to go down for that, like the pregame festivities and
Rib fest and whatnot.
we had a great time. And that's not even what you're going to be jealous of me for. The next day, Sunday,
Church.
well, that was fun too.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, but they could
You're
do
fishing,
that.
Jay. You're
Yeah, like Amy and Georgie could do that, but I bet they weren't in Titusville.
You are.
And I was. You are, yeah. I mean, there's only ever a few thousand.
I mean, I've been
yeah, it's nice.
almost more recently than you.
Enter jealousy.
I was there Sunday.
Yeah, but before that.
Oh, okay.
When were you there before that?
I don't know.
See? Look at that.
You don't keep
take
track? Dear diary, I did it. I
My
went to
Titusville diary. That's where Chris is from.
Yeah.
And he's real proud of it.
It's a great little town. And just holiday weekend visiting family, and it was nice. My brother was actually, so all three siblings in the same place, although briefly, because my brother still goes back to visit his friends over Labor Day weekend for his fantasy football draft.
Oh,
so
boy.
they get back together and do it live, like the old school way, and which
I respect that.
yeah, me too. Like that's the way to do it. So it's just
Good
it was
stuff.
fun. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go in a different direction. And it's something that's happened over the last 24 hours. And I have become very unintentionally, very moderately Facebook famous.
Oh,
I posted a video on my Instagram of all things. And I never used to make, I'm not a real REEL guy. Like I don't make reels for people to check up on my update or whatever you call it up top. No, what is it? Story. I don't do stories, whatever. But now Instagram, if you post a video, it immediately becomes a story or a reel.
Oh.
And so I'm like, okay, fine. So I was at the high school and there were lantern flies everywhere. So I took a video of it and
Concrete.
then
All
I
concrete.
added Halloween music in the background, like from the like the scary
Michael
music.
Myers. Yeah.
Yes, if you will. And it automatically shared it to my Meta or my Facebook account. And then all of a sudden, like it was getting so-and-so shared your reel, so-and-so shared your reel, so-and-so. Now it's only at 100 shares, but it's 100 shares. Like if I do a picture of my food, I might get like 3 or something like that. Here's the crazy part. For a while, I thought they were bots because it was all very, I'll just go with creative names. Wasn't Amy, wasn't Bill, wasn't Drew, it was names. And and this is going to sound a little culturally insensitive, but
good.
I am very large now in the female women of color community. I would say of the,
Are you saying as of this reel?
yes, of this reel, before the podcast, I looked, it's been shared 98 times.
I've never had anything shared that much.
I would say 75 are African American. I can only assume by their pictures, women from the greater Pittsburgh area.
Nice.
There's something about the lantern flies
all right,
freaking them out.
What's the causation here? Or
Well, I think they're all like,
correlation?
oh my gosh. And they share it with somebody else. Like, can you see there's no way I wouldn't go to school. I'd pull my kid out of that school. I don't know if that is a thing that they're less inclined culturally to be down with per se, but it's phenomenal. I mean, in each one, I thought they were bots, but I'm looking, it was like graduated from Penn Hills, works at Kennywood. Like they're all real people. So a pretty big deal.
Wow. I mean, where do you go from there? I mean,
I was actually bragging to somebody. Well, I don't know, bragging is a little strong, but mentioning your reel to somebody at work today because
that
we
doesn't
also
count
have.
as a share. Sorry.
Yeah.
No.
I'm at 99.
No,
Say that.
that's my version of like a social media share because I don't do a lot of social media, but
Don't do it.
we have a lot of lanternflies
I made another one tonight.
at our school as well. Oh, I'm excited to check it out.
This time I was killing them in the woods. I added Till Valhalla music to it, which is some Nordic stuff. But I think my next one is going to be, because I emptied all my concentrated vinegar and Dawn soap and whatnot. I think I'm going to actually make, and I've also never taken a selfie, by the way. So I never made a story and I never took a selfie. But I think I might make a video coming out as a lantern, like I have a lantern fly problem. And I'm going to have to give it up.
I think, yeah. I think
I mean, I'll make it funny.
as you would.
You're
think
going to
many-
give up
yeah.
killing them? Is that what you mean?
Oh, yeah, because I'm not buying anything else because they're like spitting into a roaring inferno.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, yeah.
I'm
emptying
afraid
the ocean
one of
with
these
a
days I'm going to
tablespoon.
walk out of school and it's just, instead of them just being everywhere seemingly, they're literally going to be everywhere.
What if they're in formation? in like attack mode.
They land on you and then they just sort of stick.
Yeah, and I read they don't bite, they don't sting, they don't puncture your skin, they don't any of that, but they're kind of aggressive when they run into you.
The line I use, they can't hurt you, but they would like to.
Yes, it's like they've got all this power, but nothing to do with it except run into you.
Yep. But yeah, and I think in my confessional, I will talk about how like there's some unhealthy thoughts that go through my head. Like if one attacks me, I'll stop spraying the whole tree and I'll just drown that one for attacking me. And then if I'm just like at the school like I was yesterday, I'll just pick one and I'll try to step on them, but they're pretty quick. So they fly away. No, I'm going to follow you.
I'm going to send you a
And
message.
I go until that one's gone. And then every once in a while I leave one alive. Somebody's going to go back and tell his friends, don't mess with that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Do
would.
they have their own language? I mean, how do all the salmon know where to go? I know salmon.
Well, you just went straight from lanternfly to salmon.
Away from the bears.
Yes.
Upstream.
Can't there be bears upstream?
Absolutely.
If I was
not.
a bear.
That's where I'd go because that's where the salmon are going.
saying.
Duh.
No, do they communicate? I don't know if insects do. Now, they are also
What's a bug? Epidemiologist?
epidural.
An epidemiologist. No, that's not right. What's a
That's disease.
Yeah.
Lindsay.
never mind.
Insects.
Oh wait,
Tech guy, look it up.
I had it and it went away.
What is an insect? One who studies insects. We're all going to go, oh, yeah.
Bug doctor. No.
Narnia.
It's an ologist.
Anthro.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Great.
Entomologist.
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 Oh,
Wait,
Like
what did you say?
Entomans.
yeah.
You study
Epidemiology.
Oh, okay.
But epidemiology is like the root
diseases.
of diseases.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That was just a bigger word.
Entomologists, you study bugs and coffee cakes
Right. Crumb cakes.
that you are not allowed to eat until company comes over.
Oh, don't. Yeah. And you have to get the box with the donuts with the bumbles on the top.
Oh, the bumbles.
They're bumbles,
Bumbles bounce.
I guess, if you say so.
I'm with you.
Alliteration.
I'm
Thank
with you. Yeah.
No, Rudolph.
Silver and gold.
Bumbles
So-
bounce? I don't remember that from.
Bumbles were the abominable
Yeah,
snowman.
that's right. Yeah.
Oh,
Yukon Cornelius.
I know. Yeah, I know you.
the Island of Misfit Toys.
Ah, nobody wants Charlie in the box
Oh, that was good.
or a train with square wheels.
Oh, that actually makes me really sad.
I would like a train with square wheels.
And then it wouldn't roll away.
Speaking of a Charlie in the box, how's Amy?
What a wonderful segue. Thanks. I'm great. Like you, I had the pleasure of entertaining some Pitt friends. We had players at the house on Monday. So they came in on Labor Day. I had three. I don't know what positions they were. Mark's going to text me and tell me what they were, but they were lovely. See, there he goes. He's texting me. Sorry, Mark.
Current players.
Current players.
Oh, fun.
Number 2, David Green or Dan Green, David or Dan Green, Buddy Mack, and the other one.
Jerkovic.
No, he came a month or so ago.
Oh,
He did. He was lovely. But they were very fun, and they.
Oh, I saw your
entertained and they had
picture.
lunch. Yeah. Those 3 guys. They were super nice. One of them's local. He went to West Mifflin, and then he's from West Mifflin. Went to Central Catholic, and
oh, wonder how to get there.
I don't know. Really cool.
Didn't recruit him, I'll tell you that much.
We did not go to Titusville over Labor Day weekend, but we did go to Erie.
Oh, also lovely.
Very lovely. All I wanted was my Erie sunset from Beach One. They're beautiful.
Oh, you go beach one.
For the sunset. We go beach. We were at beach 8. It was very cloudy, very overcast. I was very disappointed, but the girls had a grand old time. They got in the water, even though it was very cold. I sat and read, which is exactly what I wanted to do. And then we bummed around and did some stuff. And I was actually ready to throw in the towels. Like, I know we're all tired. We don't want to do this, but I really want my sunset, but it's so cloudy. It's probably not going to be a good sunset.
Oh, it was a good sunset, wasn't it?
It was beautiful. And thanks to Mark, because he was like, we're right here. Let's just walk across and go see. And Abby and Alyssa were just a little bit ahead of us. And Abby turned around and gave me like the shrug of like, hello. And we came through the trees and like, poof, there it was. And it was lovely.
Where'd you eat?
Sarah's. Not a fan.
Oh, that's the little
Yes, I'm not
throwback
a fan.
diner.
Yes, it's like the quintessential, but I'm just not, I'm not a fan. I've had much better meals. We typically go,
I mean, that's the one that's like right before Presque Isle.
Correct.
It has like the Homer Simpson
Correct.
cutout and whatnot.
Red
Correct.
and white.
correct,
Yeah.
and orange and white ice
Throwbacky.
cream, like the orange
And all the
creamsicle.
bugs.
Not really buggy.
Oh, it's always so
surprisingly.
buggy.
No, it wasn't buggy. There were 2 kids throwing rocks at each other, and then one little girl was eating a rock. And I was like, "Is someone watching her? Because I'm not responsible for her, but she's eating rocks. Does anybody want to check that out? Because I'm not."
Was
into
that
the
on your
Heimlich.
bingo card?
It surprisingly was not. It was not. So that was fun, and work is good. We are in full soccer mode, soccer season. It's really great.
Getting a little varsity time there.
She did. She did get about 6 minutes in a game against Penn Hill.
I thought
I know.
they're up 7-0, and they've said put in the
They
freshie.
said let's let the Froshies get their shot at it. So they did. But she also then against Franklin Regional, which is
Much bigger deal.
my alma mater. My sister played for Franklin Regional for years and years and years. I guess 4, but she grew. she just kept going and going and going. But she played soccer for years and years and played at Franklin and had records and all that good stuff. And the JV team beat Franklin's JV team. And Abby had an assist in that game, so that was very exciting. And then the varsity game, they ended up losing, which was so awful in overtime. It was just a heartbreaking loss. And
The refs are terrible, I'm sure.
no, well, the only thing that was gamesmanship, quite frankly, because it was a free kick for Franklin, and Penn Trafford was still like building their wall and getting in position, and they weren't quite in. Oh my goodness, they weren't quite in position, and they kicked it and. So that was a little bit of a bummer. And then the real bummer was one of the girls broke her leg in 2 places. A Franklin girl broke her leg in 2 places and was down on the field for quite some time.
That's a good friend of my daughter's.
That's right. She's a freshman. That's right. Grace. Yeah. It was so sad.
They run together. I'm not sure how much personal information I'm allowed to share, but they're friends. And my daughter didn't know what had happened. And then my husband mentioned it, and
Waterworks.
she panicked and checked in on her, and I guess she's okay.
I think the scariest thing was not just how long she was down, but everything about it seemed really calm, which is good. I mean, you want it to be, but there was like this weird. I was like, why isn't there more urgency? I don't know. It was just a very surreal. And then I've read studies recently that suggest that when you have a traumatic injury like that, a lot of times the adrenaline takes over, and so you're really not in a lot of pain and don't quite realize what's happening.
Sure.
So it wasn't until like a day or so later that we discovered what had happened, and it's tough. So, but aside from that,
I mean, in a lot of ways, though, I mean, 2 places is bad. And I mean, if it's compound and everything else, but I mean, it's not knee reconstruction. I mean, get a little titanium in there, a couple screws, bang, bang, boom. She'll be good in 3, 4, or 5 months.
Yeah, that was tough. I mean, and I think that's just a hard moment to come back from because there was still a good 10, 15 minutes left in the game. And so
It kind of makes you feel better about them winning.
yeah, sure. I mean, no, it's fine. What's really been fun is to watch Abby play on teams against girls that are on her team for her cup team and be able to, take pictures afterwards, win, lose, or draw. I mean, I don't know. I think it's all those
You can be friends on cup team. Don't be taking pictures. No.
after.
Nope.
After.
Nope.
After.
I'm okay with it.
I get it.
But we're good. And Alyssa's playing soccer.
I didn't say you have to hate them, but don't be all chummy. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Sorry.
They're not BFFs, but you know what? Even if they were, I'm okay, because that's what sports is about. Sports is about all of those lessons in life and overcoming and learning how to cope with people, learning how to relate to people.
Sure.
All of those things. So I don't know. I think there's something. Okay
It's nice. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I'm competitive. And I hate my rivals. That's all.
Oh, Abby will not mince her words when it comes to certain teams. And
sure.
And we took a picture after the game and we pointed at the scoreboard and did thumbs down, pointing to not the score of the game, but the Franklin Regional Board. Sent it to my sister. We're like, your Panthers went down. She's like, oh. So it's always fun to trash talk your aunt.
It is nice.
Yeah.
You would never trash talk.
Georgie.
That is true.
I know, because Georgie's amazing. And I was thinking about the fact that we've been friends for a whole decade, which is crazy. I mean,
Very strange, because in some ways, I feel like you've kind of always been there. And others, you're still kind of a new friend because you're a friend that I met after I had a kid. And
Yeah.
wow.
yeah, I didn't know Georgie pre-Caro. But so Georgie and I met at preschool. Our daughters went to the same preschool.
I was gonna say
I know. No,
that was a quick 10 years from.
I
you guys
know.
being
Not
in
when we
preschool.
were in.
Yeah.
They're sophomores in high school now.
Yeah, we
Actually,
were
no,
not.
they'd be in 8th
It's
grade.
magic math.
Yeah, it's
Well, it's
that's
Common
the,
Core.
That's the best kind. That's the best kind I can do. I'm like I live in a world of ish. Like 10 plus. It's something 40ish. I don't know.
Not an engineer.
Not at all. No. So our daughters went to the same preschool, and it was absolutely I found it to be a very lovely experience. And what's really cool is that Georgie and I became friends, but also our moms kind of became friends because Georgie and I are working mamas who weren't always there for pickups and drop-offs at all times.
Yeah.
So Nunny and Caro's grandma got to know each other and, kind of visit during pickups and drop-offs.
That's pretty rare.
Yeah. It was
Like,
pretty,
I don't know that I've heard that. I mean, sometimes in like dating situations, obviously the parents become friends, but not in friendly situations. That's pretty special.
Loves your mom.
but it was, so Abby and Caroline went to this preschool that the vast majority of the kids, if not all of them, pretty much went to Franklin. So Abby was like the outlier that did not go to Franklin. So she doesn't really still stay in touch with these girls all that much. Although at the track meet, I was cheering for Caroline because Abby ran track and so does Caroline. And I was cheering for Caroline and people were like, what are you doing? She's on the other. I'm like, but I know her and she's a good kid and I'll cheer for her because Abby's not even in this race. It's fine. It's totally fine.
Completely.
So that's been, again, that's one of those moments where like they're competitors, but they're still friendly.
Sure.
So, but it's been nice. It's been nice to maintain a friendship despite the fact that our lives are Caroline does not play soccer. So that Georgie's not a soccer
That's
mom
75%
friend.
of your time. So
95, I think sometimes, which is fine. I'm not complaining, but it's just it's nice to have when we talk about like buckets, right? Like there are your soccer mom friends and that's how they know you and that's your identity. But it's nice to have a friendship that's apart from all of that.
it's a friend.
It is a friend.
So, Georgie, welcome to the table. We're so excited. And Amy spoke so glowingly of you. And so there's a lot of pressure for you to not disappoint anybody here. But tell us just a little more about, so you live in Murraysville.
I do.
And have you always lived in Murraysville? Did you grow up in Murraysville? What's your story?
I have not, and this has another tie to Amy, which I'll get to after I go chronologically. I was born overseas. I was born in Seoul, South Korea.
I've heard of it.
It makes me sound really exotic. However, I came here when I was 4 months old. I was adopted, and I came over on somebody else's grandma's lap. This is before the days of having to do home studies and go to the country from which your child is being adopted. So I rode on somebody's lap and came to JFK, and that's where my parents, my real parents, as I like to call them, met me for the first time. Wow. So.
Can I ask, how did they find you? And don't say, how did you get adopted?
The internet.
It was kind of like Airbnb for babies. No, I'm just kidding. There was no
Airbnb.
She was the prize inside a Cracker Jack box.
Airbnb squared?
no filters, female sticking up hair. No. I'm not sure of the exact process, but the social services group I was with matched families with children based on age, and my parents weren't old by any standard when they applied for a baby, but back then they were in their mid 30s, and back then that's a little older. Now that's kind of
When you're thinking about having a kid.
yeah. And so I'm not sure how they got a newborn, but they were hoping for a newborn, and I was newborn-ish. Back to Amy's ish.
Rough math.
Sure.
Rough math. And so not being chronological at all, I was actually found in a bus station. A policeman found me, and they took me to Korean Social Services, and then I was placed with Welcome House, which is the adoption agency.
Welcome
House.
House. Okay.
And affiliated with Pearl S. Buck, the writer.
Get out. I didn't know that. Did not know that.
I don't know writers.
Oh, that's right. You said you don't like books.
I don't mind books. I just don't have the attention span to read books.
How are you with TV?
I can do It's so funny. These are my questions for you later. I like individual shows. I don't do movies. Too long.
Most books are more than 2 hours long too. So yeah, insane. Yeah. I have to feel people that are really interested.
That's like my husband with books. He reads so much on the internet, like relevant things like the news.
That's what I'm talking about. See, he and I, we're close. We just haven't met yet.
No,
He doesn't know it, but he's your new best friend.
yes, somewhere out there.
Tim, if
and-
you're listening, guess
Spouse and I are close.
how does spouse feel about that?
people bingo, check one. So I came over here when I was 4 months old, and pretty much your all-American, southwestern Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh, upper middle class upbringing. My sister also is adopted. She was domestically adopted, and we literally had a golden retriever and a picket fence.
Well, you're the Murraysville lifestyle.
Yes, but not in Murraysville. And this is where the Amy hook comes in. So, you know this thing about Pittsburgh where people don't really go that far from home.
Why would you?
Exactly.
You have to cross a bridge.
Or, yeah, river. Oh,
Yes.
tunnel.
Oh, well, I grew up in Irwin, North Huntington, and I really liked it a lot. Great experience, but I was not going to raise my child where I was raised. So I moved so far away.
So far and different.
All the way across. You were all the way across Route 30 and 22.
Yes.
Not even. You didn't even cross Route 22 because you're on
technically not,
that
no.
side.
And
Oh, you're on the Delmont side.
I'm
No, not the Delmont side, but yeah.
The Irwin, the Irwin side of Murraysville.
The Route 130 side.
Thank
over
you.
that way.
I'm
yeah.
thinking, what's the name?
Yeah.
What's the numbers on that? What's the numbers on that? And I couldn't pull it up.
Ish. 130.
More by like Westmoreland Country Club / whatever. No?
Oak Hollow Disc Golf Course.
Oak Hollow. That
I can see that from my front yard.
Nice.
And Amy grew up in Franklin Regional School District, and she lives in Irwin.
Flippy floppy.
Yeah. 6 miles.
The old flippy floppy.
Yes.
Not by
So-
design either.
No.
No.
And how old was your sister compared to you?
2 years, 2 months younger.
But she, you were adopted at 4 months. I almost asked, were you adopted at the same time? Yeah, she was adopted at negative 18 months.
They put her on layaway.
Yeah, did they? They made all the payments though.
We-
They ran it through Kmart.
We adopted an egg.
No.
Yeah, that's not the same time.
No. But that's okay.
So you yourself went to what high school?
I went to two. I went to Central Christian, which is no longer around. And I went to Greensburg Central Catholic.
Oh, okay.
I graduated from the latter.
Okay. And your sister did as well?
Yes.
And how's your sister now and then? Like you guys were good, close growing up?
We were very close growing up. And we've kind of taken different paths, but we've kind of found ourselves back on parallel paths.
Okay. Well, because were there other siblings in the home?
No.
So just the two of you?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And people like to ask, usually children, could your parents not have kids?
No.
Why are you whispering? I'm like, I don't know. It's none of my business. And that whole thing, rather not think about it.
Oh, interesting. So you never felt like you wanted to ask.
No.
And they never offered that info. And
No.
that's all.
And it's
Cool.
weird because people that know me, I like to find answers to things.
Inquisitive
I'd like to
mind.
know-
Very.
Yes. But how I came about, why was I in that bus station? Was I unintended? Was there something sad that led to me? Or did I just eat too much and they shipped me out? I don't know.
You said shipped.
Shipped. No, not SHIPT. That's a thing now.
Oh, I don't even know what that is, but I heard.
Like relationship?
Yeah.
Yeah. You shipped. Yeah.
Yeah,
Shipped.
but I actually almost heard SHIT. And I was like, oh, well, that's,
Like
but then I was like, no, she said
I
shipped.
shipped my pants.
Yeah. I'm on my good behavior.
You remember that commercial?
No.
Oh, was it Kmart?
Now that
Yeah.
you say that,
I-
I shipped my
I
pants.
shipped my pants.
I'm like,
Do you realize that's 2 Kmart references in the last 5 minutes of this podcast? Because I said that they ran the layaway through Kmart.
Kmart. I thought there was an earlier Kmart.
Let's bring it
reference,
back.
too.
Could be 3.
Kmart. R.I.P.
Martha Stewart.
Never a fan.
Oh, everyday living.
There's no Montgomery Ward or Sears, I'll tell you that.
That's true. Or Doll Kempers.
Oh, Doc Embers. That is going back.
Yeah.
McCrory's?
Oh, well, now you're going all the way
Gold
back to
Circle?
Woolworth. Gold Circle, Grants.
Penn Hills. It's
Yeah.
the Giant Eagle now. And
the
the
Gold Circle took over after Grants.
and Farmore was up at the top. Anyway,
Are we going to do this? Because I can go all the way back to before Farmore was, oh, crap, Claber's. Claber's Hardware.
I don't remember that. Anyway,
Hills.
Farmer Brown's farm
got a lovely daughter.
before there was any.
You mean Duff Farm? Or do you mean the Stotler Farm?
I'm just saying before there were
before
buildings.
that, it was, yeah.
And anyway,
when the
never
Apaches
mind.
were
It's
here,
dumb.
Seneca Indians.
Rabbit hole.
Seneca Indians. I like it.
So you didn't need to know because the bottom line is they chose to love you and raise you. And why ask? Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I don't remember why I never wanted to ask.
Well, we don't really usually ask that of biological parents. Like, I've never asked my mom and dad, like, so did you really want me? And like, what was that all about? And why did you decide to have me? Like, so it's the conversation we were having earlier about why do we ask questions about things that others would assume are kind of standard issue? Like, if you aren't going to, I don't know. I never asked my parents about that.
No, and it never even dawned on me to ask. And that's another thing that surprises people because much to my husband and my daughter's chagrin, I ask a lot of questions and I have no problem asking pretty much anybody anything from discounts to comp checks to...
Ooh, that's one of my sister's life mottos. Doesn't hurt to ask.
Exactly. And it can be done in a respectful way that doesn't demean the service you're getting or make somebody feel bad, even if they gave you a shoddy product. Shoddy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you now. Yeah. It's
There's
your
a
birthday.
respectful, yes, it's a respectful
gonna say
way of asking. And that's okay because they can tell you, no, go fly a kite or other things. I've heard them all.
And so, but yeah, I mean, I get it. And it is atypical for who you are, but yet you are interested in every question you ask and there's a benefit to you. Whereas looking backwards, you're not interested and there's no benefit to you knowing.
Because it could go both ways. I don't want to be all dark, gloomy, sad, but you don't know. Children come about in lots of different ways. And some of them are happy stories. Some of them are sad stories. Some of them are really sad. And I don't need that information. I didn't think about that when I was a kid. I was just like, why is my friend asking me? Why don't they ask me, do you want to play a different game than Red Rover? No, we have to ask, why don't you look like your parents?
Yeah.
It's a curiosity of the kids will say things that they don't, as they're trying to learn the world and they don't understand that there could be feelings
But yet you
associated
still
with the
feel so
question.
singled out.
Yeah. And my parents did a great job of letting us know we were special, but not making us special because we were adopted. We're special because
Who you
we're
are.
us. Yeah.
Yes. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And subtle. Like, that's a smart thing for them to do.
And my parents weren't subtle people. So that was that's pretty incredible in and of itself.
It's very insightful, though. And I think important because here you are, years later, that still has an impact on you.
Yes.
And probably how you raised Caroline.
Yes. Specifically to Caroline. So it probably would have been helpful if I mentioned my parents were both Caucasian, German-Irish on my father's side, Slovak-Hungarian on my mother's side. I'm Korean, we think. So I don't really look like my parents. And my sister is, she's light brown hair and brown eyes and light skin.
Wait, let me ask a question. So she looked like she could have been your parents' biological child.
Yes.
Ish. I mean,
Ish.
again, there's mannerisms.
40-ish, 39-ish.
Much more than you.
Oh, for sure.
And so did that have any impact on you or her?
I don't really remember that it did. Why am I echoing?
Sorry.
Okay. And again, the older I get, the more I'm likely not to remember. But we didn't really think about it that much.
Right. Because they did such a good job. You're just our daughters.
Yeah, and I this is no disrespect to people that choose to do adopted day, adopted kid picnics, and adoptee Facebook groups and
Support groups.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing against that, but I never felt that that was something that I needed. I had lots of good people in my life. And there's probably more of good people in those groups, but I just never were seeking it out. So you mentioned, Amy, about Caroline. And she was in maybe second grade, and a couple kids asked her, "Why is your skin that color?" She's kind of tan, like Dora the Explorer. And she's like, "Why are your eyes shaped like that? They're a little almond shaped." And
Okay.
and she came home and told me, and I'm a bit of a mama bear.
Aw.
I was long before I had a kid, very protective of my own, and I'm like, "What?
Give me her name.
I'm going to hunt her down."
This child is going down.
She's 7, but I'm like, okay, how can I handle this well? This probably wasn't the first time. This is probably second or third. And like, you know what? You tell them that God made you that way.
And then they get in trouble for talking about God. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. Well,
And this was before the Lady Gaga song, too, just so we're clear.
yeah, for sure.
Born this way.
And I said to Caroline, that's just the way you were made. That's all you need to say. And then I might have said something uncharitable if you ask once. It's because that was my point. You don't know. These kids aren't asking because they don't think she should be in their classroom. They're not asking because they don't want to be her friend. They're children and they're curious.
Curious minds.
Sure.
And maybe we don't smack them over the head and tell them to be quiet because they might offend somebody.
Well, but aren't we supposed to be teaching our kids about differences? And how do you explain or educate about differences without recognizing differences? Like if everybody looks exactly like you, then when you are presented with someone who looks different, speaks differently, dresses differently, whatever, eats differently, maybe they pray before they eat, maybe who knows what they do that's different according to you. But if we don't expose them to differences, then how do they know how to process them? So to ask a question, there's an educational opportunity. Yes, your mama bear comes out because you feel as though the question is disrespectful in some way, but the reality is like this is why. Or
They're curious. If you didn't, I have to be careful not to be mean. If you didn't travel a lot, and I'm not talking about going to various Asian countries, the number of times I've told people Asia is not a country, it's alarming. Anyway, if you didn't, I'm not saying that people that haven't traveled all over Asia, I'm talking about reading books, going to the library,
People that haven't left Irwin or Norwin or Penn Trafford.
or also don't read
Right.
picture books. You know, but yet you can't fault a kid for that.
I read picture books.
I like picture books.
But what I wanted to, if I may, you, in a mama bear moment, projected a little bit of your hurts and your, what are like saying, oh, I have to protect you, when she was just saying, yeah, they asked me this question. Because I projected,
Oh, you got this lily white, naughty kid in the rich suburbs, alienating this poor little girl, when in reality, and again, the context and the story and whatever else, but I projected into they were making fun of her. Instead of just saying, hey, yeah, you're different than mine. Why is that? And it's interesting to re-project, when in reality, it was just a cute, innocent little thing. Like in my mind, no, they were picking on her. They were excluding her from all the media games.
And I don't think there was no, and I don't think there was any of that because she told me who the kids were, and I had told another mother about the situation, but I did not say what the kids' names were because they're children.
right.
They're just asking a
Inquisitive
question.
minds want to know.
And
Exploring.
if we let our kids do those embarrassing things, like to their friends who are Jewish, why are you wearing that on your head? Maybe not with that tone. Or we ask a friend of ours who is Muslim, what is your headscarf? Like not in a mean way, but just let the
Tell me
kids,
about that, yeah.
let the adults get uncomfortable because we don't want to look like intolerant people that don't educate our children on differences. We want to look like we've exposed them to everything, when in fact, we haven't. And if we let them go, ask the questions, why do you do that? What kind of fish is that? Why does your lunch look like a bento box? They're going to learn something. So that moment was more of a teaching moment for me than for my kid.
Very much so. And so you went to Greensburg Central Catholic, and your parents did an amazing job. So no abandonment issues, no like you didn't have any emotional, because you hear so often with adopted kids, they've got a lot of trust issues. They have a lot of abandonment issues, things like that. That never really manifests itself in your world.
People suggest it because just like everybody else, I have hang-ups and anxieties and periods of being depressed. And the first question is always,
Oh, is it because
is
you were
it because
adopted?
you're adopted? I don't know. That's
Right.
why I'm here. And I don't think so. But then if it was a subconscious thing, I don't think I would have absorbed it. But it kind of doesn't matter, right?
I mean, the way your parents raised you, to me, seems like the poster child. Maybe that's not the right word, but the exemplary act. Like, you were just loved. You were theirs. Like, they always say when you adopt somebody, you're choosing to love them. When you have a baby, it's like, oh, I have to love them in theory.
Most of
But
the
they
time.
May
chose
or may
to.
not have said that to a couple of kids.
Wait, I mean,
My parents picked me. Your parents got stuck with you.
and that was recently.
Georgie is a sharp-witted.
No, that was
Like
I
as a
was-
kid, that was like your comeback.
Not always, but by the time I was 7, I was tired of playing
Not always, but by the time I got to 7,
when I grew up to the ripe old age. Yeah, when I grew up at 7.
adoption bingo. What do you remember from Korea? I was 4 months,
months old.
What do you remember being 4 months old? Oh, what were your real parents like?
What is it? These are my real
hologram parents. Do you like Chinese food?
Oh gosh.
I'm not Chinese. And yes, I do.
Don't you? Doesn't everybody?
Yeah.
But even that, no, that's not fair. But I'm like, they could just be asking, like, hey, do you like Chinese food? You're like, what is that supposed
What's
to
the
mean?
what's the Seinfeld? We're like, excuse me, do you know where I go Chinese? Why? Because I'm Chinese. I should know. No, because you're a mailman and you know the neighborhood. Seinfeld bingo. That one's for you, Mark.
Georgie's a mailman? I didn't know that.
No,
Male
she's
person.
not.
Oh, sorry.
Although I may
Female
have,
mailman. Female
I
male.
may have
Female.
told somebody that we had an Asian mailman. Again, you get tired of answering
Man.
adoption questions. And I should have just been nice about it. Somebody cared enough to ask. The older you get, the more you realize nobody actually cares. So when somebody does care enough to ask a question, even if it's like, oh,
A little clunky or hurtful.
yeah.
So, but isn't it funny how the questions that sometimes the response is, why do you want to know? Because that sort of stops them in their tracks of
Right.
like, are you just being nosy or are you genuinely
Engaging into my story.
curious? So we had
Because they could just go, I'm just trying to make conversation. I don't
Right.
know.
and then I feel terrible because I'm being all like, "Rah."
well, but there's so much chatter right now about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And how and
heard
making sure that you making sure you say the right things and do the right
and
things.
not say the wrong things.
Correct. So then it becomes like, are you allowed to compliment someone on a hairstyle?
Oh gosh, no.
But to me, like I would love to be able to say, oh my gosh, your hair looks amazing. That looks great. But again, like Georgie, I'm genuinely a curious person. Very much, I'm interested in why things are. I'm interested in how things are done. I'm interested in how things are created and the progress behind things. Like I love behind the scenes stuff. Like show me how that board works. I'm really curious what these buttons do. I'm not going to ask you. Don't worry, Eric. I won't touch any of those buttons. I know he's like, don't even look at these. But
Yeah, that's Eric.
But-
That's exactly how he talks.
but it's interesting that I asked my boss and I said, okay, let me ask you this. I said, if I compliment so-and-so on their hairstyle, am I going to get in trouble? And she said, well, is it coming from a sincere place? I think there's a difference. And I think people understand that.
You would hope so. I complimented somebody on increased fitness, but I didn't say it like that. I'm like, you look a little more toned. You look great. And the person said, I've had a stomach virus for 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And you said, well, baby, it's working.
Yeah, exactly. What's the name of that bug?
Yeah, I think that was all I had.
Yeah, those are the tough things because again, it most often comes from a place of sincerity. So there have been times where people have asked questions and my response has been, why do you want to know? Or what is it about that is so, what are you so curious about? But not defensively, but it's interesting. Like, why are you so concerned about, Like I have people ask me all the time about my girls and their age difference. They're 5 years apart.
Really?
Yeah. What's that like? Was that like, did you do that on purpose? No. No. Like
They're what, 5, 6 years apart?
5 years apart almost to the
5
day.
is a magic number.
I thought
So we
33 was a
made
magic
it.
number.
So we made it 5 years exactly.
Oh, you're
I have a 5 in my closet. I have a 5 on my ceiling.
I have 5 fingers on each hand. It's amazing. 5 toes.
And I really want to paint 5 on your face, and then they go away.
I'm picturing the Sesame Street where they like paint the 5 on the bread and mustard.
Yes.
Today's episode is brought to you by the number
5. And the letters F.
Wow. IVE. That's what
thank
it
you.
was.
What are you projecting,
Exactly.
Jay?
People
Correctly
seriously
presuming.
ask. See, I know
Yes.
Amy's girls, and I knew her oldest when she was just a little thing, 4 years old, and now she looks like she could go play for the Olympic soccer team. And I knew
Going right to her head.
I knew the baby before I knew the younger child before she even existed. And now I think about them in public and think, really, that's the first thing somebody's going to say to you?
People ask me about their age gap. I'm like, but to your point, like I don't. It's like the mom next door to me that has triplets, and people are like, whoa, well, I don't know any different because I had triplets. I don't know what it's like to have one child at a time, and then a few years later have another infant with, like I had 3 infants, bam, all at once. Like that is what they know. So
But I think that goes through all different kinds of life experiences. Like, oh, I could never have triplets. Like, no, you could.
Sure
you
you
don't
could.
want to. People say that about, with me, with Trey and everything else. Like, oh, I could never go through that. Well, no, you could. You'd rather not.
Right.
And maybe you would want to have triplets. I don't know. But before we do more social observations on this world, I want to get to know Georgie a little bit better because not just being from the country of Asia, not just being adopted for some magical reason by the most
Because of the number
altruistic people in the world.
her parents counted to 5, and poof, she arrived.
I was a 5th, and I'm like, you're out.
So you graduated from high school and then you,
I went to Duquesne and majored in.
were you raised Catholic, if we can go to a spiritual sidebar here?
I was not.
But they valued the Catholic education or just the private school education?
Yes to private Christian,
Sure.
or more. It was not about a particular religious school. It was more the aggressive exclusion of anything religious at a public school. And I went to a nice suburban public school where it wasn't hostile to people of faith. But my parents wanted the incorporation of those kind of values. And we started out at an independent Christian school. They meant well, but they forgot their charter was school and not church. Now, I've never started a school, so I probably shouldn't throw stones.
But see, I love that because I always tell my kids and anybody who'll listen to me, it's more important to know what you don't know than what you know. So when people complain about things they've never done, well, you don't know what it's like to run a school.
Or have triplets.
Right.
Bless.
So you ended up at Greensburg Central, and then from there you chose Duquesne.
Yes. Never once felt out of place because I wasn't Roman Catholic. I sat, I don't know if I can say this, but I sat in the back of the church on purpose during private confession, with which I have no problem, but I didn't grow up doing it. And there was another student who was Muslim and another student who was Hindu and a fellow Lutheran like myself. It sounds like a bad joke getting
Lutheran,
started.
a Hindu, and a Muslim walk into a confessional.
Exactly. Or actually don't walk into
Don't walk into a confessional.
Back out.
Joke's over.
out. No, it wasn't weird. Like, okay, so I don't even think anybody asked me.
Sure.
I think people just thought I was some other religion because
Oh, yeah.
I also must be good at math.
Oh, yeah. So you majored in.
I
It'd be
majored
funny if she's like, I am.
Ish.
no, that's a funny story. I majored in business administration with a concentration in marketing. I wanted to do public relations or advertising because I like words and I like talking. And my dad said, do you want to stay in Pittsburgh? And I said, I think so. He said, you need to do something with computers or finance unless you never want to make any money ever. He probably didn't say it with all that drama. And I'm like, So I picked computers, and I'm glad I did, because that led to my first job. And I liked the job. So I think that's a good thing.
And when did you meet Tim?
I met Tim my senior year of college.
Oh, did you get your MRS degree?
I did. You know, it took me forever, and people would say that. I'm like, what? PhD, JD, MBA, MRS. Someone had to explain it to me.
Do you know what it is?
No, I don't.
You know what it is.
When you get married after college or you meet your spouse in college, MRS misses.
Become a Mrs. That's why I learned it.
MRS.
I learned it in college because I noticed like the senior girls all of a sudden started like looking nice again. They didn't look as bummy as they did like sophomore, junior year. They would get dressed. And of course, in my day, it was popped polo shirts and the Ray-Bans were
yes.
back on. And
Those
they
are
were
a thing again.
I know they are. Everything
Pop collars or
old is
Ray-Bans?
new. Both. Everything
Yeah.
old is new again. Mullets are back.
Then show me a Swatch watch.
Not there yet.
With the guard. You had
Oh, yeah, the rubber guard on top so it wouldn't scratch. That's what I'm talking about. But
Classic.
back to Georgie. You met Tim in your senior year. He was a major in.
Computer science, but he was already a grown up. He had graduated.
He was 40.
No, not really.
ish.
Ish. And by ish, I mean 23. So about the math thing. No, so he was working already, and we met through a friend who was dating a friend. And the friend said, you should come out with us. And Tim said, okay. They're both computer scientists. That was the conversation. And I met him.
It's very binary.
Yes. 0, 1, 0, 1. And I liked him. And he said, would you like to have dinner with me? And I said, sure. And then he wanted a lift home.
Oh,
I'm really bad at directions. Really, really bad. All the stereotypes are true.
For you. You know. Yeah.
So I said no because I didn't want to look dumb. And he thought maybe I wasn't interested. But then we did go to dinner. And then we went to another dinner. And then 5 months later, he proposed.
Oh my goodness.
whoa.
That's
Whirlwind.
what everybody said. Like,
5 months later.
Oh, there it is.
There we go. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why my girls are 5 years apart.
yeah. Now you have a story.
I'm completely fictitious one, but those are good.
Sometimes they're fun.
Sometimes they're better than reality. Anywho,
Sometimes I do that.
sometimes I lie. Just read that book. Anyway, so 5 months later, he proposes.
He proposed, and I said yes. And everybody else says, wow, we really like him, or we really like her. I don't know if they said that, but I'm going to go with that. But it's only 5 months.
So soon.
So soon. You're so young. You've never lived on your own. How do you know what you want?
Now, is this also including your parents?
No, they liked him. I think they liked him more than they like me.
I'm sure. Oh,
No, I'm just kidding.
That's not true.
No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, other people are saying that, but they might like him as well. But that is a fast track.
It is. And I didn't have world's most robust dating experience, as in I had lots of friends who, I was going to say were boys. They probably still are. Lots of friends who are, not touching that one. Lots of friends who were guys. I knew that was coming. And we were friends, or they needed relationship advice, or they wanted to copy my homework, not sadly math. So now, 2 relationships, and then this is the one. And there was no, are we boyfriend and girlfriend? Are we exclusive? And I like my definitions. And
Hell, you're
buckets.
engaged.
Yeah.
Forget,
And then
forget
we were
exclusive.
like, I met
Funny how it
this
just sort
guy.
of happens.
Yeah, I met this guy, and now we're engaged. And it's like the when did you become a Christian question. So I'm thinking we've got a God vibe going here. The when did you start your personal relationship with Jesus Christ? When were you confirmed? Regardless of what denomination or non-denomination, that question comes up. I couldn't tell you.
Right.
Same with when did you know you were in love with Tim? I don't know. I feel like I've always been in love with him. I feel like I've always been a Christian. Well, neither of those could be true, because there was a point when you believed and a point when you didn't. I'm like, that's true. I'm not denying that.
I'm not
saying
aware.
I don't
Right.
remember. There was a time when I was out of the womb and in the womb, and I don't remember that either. Along with not remembering anything about those 4 months.
Wait, well, I was going to say that's a wonderful symmetry with, when did you come to the United States? When did you, I don't know. I've always been here.
Mm-hmm.
No, but you weren't. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I actually don't know when I was shipped.
Oh, got it. Yep. Shipped. I'm with you.
Because of the whole international date line and the long flight, but I arrived on August 23rd. So we call that the A day, A for adoption, A day. Now I hear it's gotcha day. I called it acquisition day for a while to be funny, but people thought that was kind of mean.
It's a merger. and
Transactional.
acquisition.
Hey, it's your day. You call it what you want.
Exactly. So yeah.
Oh, let me go way back at this point. So are you fully aware of your birthday or do you go by your A day?
Well, my birthday is March 29th, and people have said, but there's that international date line. And I'm preparing my snotty
And that's how you met
response.
Tim, the international date line. No, I'm
No,
sorry, go ahead.
what? Back when
Which is different than just regular Dateline. That's
Yeah,
creepy.
well, that's
Keith
what-
Morrison.
yes, but that's another funny story. Anyway, yeah, that's a legit question. And before I was pulling up my arsenal of snotty remarks to make, I don't know when my birthday was. I actually don't.
Right.
It was written on a piece of paper, but what if that was like the day they were supposed to go grocery shopping?
Oh.
I don't
Ish.
know.
That's the
And guess what? I mean, I guess it matters, but I mean, it sort of doesn't. I mean, again, you were chosen and you were loved, and
Didn't your mom make up her birthday too?
She did.
See?
That's synchronicity. Yes, my mom made up her birthday. My real mom, the woman that raised me, she had a birthday. She didn't like it. She changed it. And I said, why would you do that? She said, well, the queen can do it.
I didn't know the queen
I
could
would-
do that.
Yeah, but why did she not like her?
Well, when's her birthday?
Was it like
It was
Christmas?
right in the middle of the summer. And I'm like, that's perfect. There's not a lot going on. But she switched it to early December because you want to add more things in December.
Yeah, nobody has anything going on then.
No,
For sure.
and
Yeah. Real quiet time.
not to be all sad, but again, the way timing works out, it's been approximately a year since my mother passed. And thinking about her birthday and thinking about how she invented a birthday, it's just funny how time is. It's like a day. We say that at home a lot. Well, it's the day my mother passed, September 1st, 2022. And it's a sad day, but also she was dead the day before September 1st, 2023, and she was dead the day after. So why do we have to focus on one day that's so bad? And when I'm being logical, that's what I tell myself. That's what I tell our daughter to try to get her to,
Logic reason.
yeah, to see, okay, it's a day. But then sometimes the stiff upper lip and the logic fails, and I'm sitting in the bathroom going,
You're right. And it isn't on that day. It's just on a day.
yeah, it's on this year. It was maybe 2 or 3 days after because, pride goes before the fall. My parents love that one. I'm thinking, you know what? I got past September 1st. I went shopping with a good friend of mine. I might have gone running. It was a normal busy day of being a person. And I'm like, okay, this logic thing's working. And then the next day came. I'm like, I don't remember what I did that day, but we did something. And then Sunday came, and I'm sitting in church. There was no Amazing Grace, no bagpipes, no trigger music. Just, I don't even remember what it was. And I'm like, uh-oh. And Caroline's like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm not okay. But we were doing communion. It's kind of rude to get up and leave during Lord's Supper. So I'm like, just stay put, stay put. And as soon as we were done, I'm like, I'm out of here for a couple minutes.
Sure.
And I went to the ladies' room, and I'm like, now I have to make all these embarrassing noises, and I don't want someone to ask me what's wrong. But then I heard somebody else being sad, and I was wondering why they were sad, but I didn't want to intrude, especially since the door was closed, and that's weird on several levels. So I pulled it together, splashed my face off, and then it was actually, no, my family would say no. I was kind of like unpleasant the rest of the day. So it wasn't limited to church.
Right. But you kind of bottled it up and shoved it down.
Well, yeah, because again, it's rude to leave during the Lord's Supper. And I was raised Lutheran, but more traditional. I know communion celebrated a lot of different ways in different churches now, when you don't have to file to the front and receive the elements. You don't have to stay seated. In some churches, I've heard they get up and move around like they did in the actual Last Supper.
It's like stations.
Yeah.
Stations of the Lord's Supper. That's kind of
Do they all sit on like the one side of the table? So
yeah.
that you
That's
can
what they do,
see-
so you could paint them.
Yeah.
In the picture, yes. You know, there's a
Do they all
picture.
strike a pose? Does somebody yell at some point, like, and freeze? And they all, like, no.
No, there's a book. Oh, you know what? I'm confused. Never mind. It wasn't a book about that painting. But the point being, I didn't want to leave. And you don't want your emotions to be your boss. That was another thing, more of a my mom thing. Her mother,
He was a German.
Slovak Hungarian.
Oh, your dad was a German.
Yes.
Okay.
And she told him that he came from difficult people.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Does she mean nationality or his parents?
Both.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's okay to say that could be perceived as racist. So I'm just going to skip that one and keep going.
Well, you're not saying it. She said it.
Yeah, she's like,
It's
well, there
hearsay.
were two wars that your people started. I'm like, Mom, what did we talk about that phrase? Your people, those people.
Us and the them.
Yeah, nah.
Nope.
She's like, I wasn't talking to you. But back to the feelings thing. Her mother passed on Christmas Eve when my mother was 21. No warning. Completely opposite of how my mother passed. We had a lot of warning. And I don't know which one's worse because my dad went like that. And but Christmas Eve was always Christmas Eve at our house growing up. It was baby Jesus and church and out of town presents. I shouldn't sound that excited about the gifts, but that was when we opened presents from our relatives that mailed them to us, shipped.
The right kind of
They
shit.
bought them on layaway at Kmart.
Yeah.
So you get Christmas presents on Christmas Eve and still on Christmas Day.
Yes.
That's nice.
And the point was, my mom would tell us that Christmas Eve is Christmas Eve. And we didn't make it a sad day. We didn't.
Didn't even tip your cap off to grandma. Shout out.
We sometimes mentioned her, but it definitely made my mom sad.
Right. She
And then
avoided it.
later, she would tell me I actually was really sad and it was really hard to be this happy. And I'm like,
Oh, how alone. That everybody's happy and she's grieving inside.
and I didn't know
And
that
baking. Yeah.
because she just seemed snippy to me. And then I said that wasn't very nice either. But
Mom, why you so snippy?
Yeah. Why are you being a little stinker?
I'm like, it's Christmas. But now I get it because I don't want it to be, well, we can't ever be happy on this day ever again.
Right. Which isn't necessarily, you can't be sad on a given one.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can be sad on a given communion.
you can. And I mean, I don't think that Jesus would stop liking me if I got up between the bread and the wine.
No.
But that
Rule
well-behaved-
follower.
Yes.
And
And
people pleaser.
you don't show your feelings like that. Who shows their feelings in church? I'm just kidding.
Oh gosh, I do all the time.
I'm just kidding. And you don't make a scene. You don't make it about you. So I'm sitting there like, okay, I can do this. Counting down. And then cup's done, tip back, I'm out of here.
But what's so great about that, like from a pastor's perspective, like you're saying, I don't want to disrupt communion. I don't want to disrupt the Lord's Supper. I don't want to be disrespectful. All right, I'm going to count down until this is over, and then
I'm not
it's like,
focused on what's
we're not
happening. I'm
celebrating the.
But
the-
also-
okay, let's do this in remembrance of Him. Let's get through this and get out the door.
I counted lights, embedded ceiling lights. There were 9 rows of them, 6 lights across. So I'm like, okay, there's 54 lights. Of those 54, how many are turned this way? Anything, like once your brain is distracted, you can get your emotions to be, I used to say stop, but that blew up in my face. Distracted. Yeah, they'll come out somewhere else later.
Yes. So this has been a very fast hour, and so we're not done, but we're close to done. We call it the Duke Maley principle, because Duke always gets mad when we stop at an hour when we're just getting going. So now we do it out of spite. But
Of course.
I do want to. It's so funny. I had some questions which we've gotten to, almost none of them, and you took a relational needs questionnaire that anyone, and I would dare say everyone, should take to learn a little bit more about themselves. A phrase that we've come up with here at the table is, if you're not aware of your emotions, you'll be manipulated by your feelings. So if you're not aware of why you're upset, like you were sad, but you knew why, because you had experienced loss.
Yeah.
But sometimes we're angry and we don't know why. So then the anger takes over and we're just dealing with feelings, not the emotions that cause them. So I just want to take a quick little dip into the results of your relational needs questionnaire. What I think is hilarious is your tied for your second highest is approval, but what that actually means is more belonging. It's the way to look at it. And it's your need to be a part of something, to, like, what's your last name growing up?
Schussler.
Schussler. I had some Schussler. I had a friend, Carl Schussler. I think there's a T in there. Yours doesn't have a T. Anyhow, if it was, is it important that you were a Schussler and that you were this, and that's what belonging is. So the kind of person that's just a loner, they don't have a high need for belonging. But the people that like to be connected. And one of my questions were, well, what do you suppose was your need for belonging? Where did that come from? Oh, I don't know. Being chosen and adopted and raised by doting parents who loved you and cared for you. And all right, that's an easy one to answer. Your highest one, though, was appreciation. Where does that come from? And how does that manifest? So where does it come from? Like, were you constantly appreciated growing up, like, oh, you did a good job, or hey, good job on that test?
Yeah.
Or because emotional needs are high either because they were met as a child growing up or because they weren't met, and so you're desiring them.
We're used to having them met. I actually don't know the answer to that. I never thought about
Appreciation being any auspice of childhood. Children are supposed to appreciate their parents, their teachers, their coaches, their youth leaders. Children aren't to be appreciated on their own. I probably shouldn't say that, but
No, well, that's your perception. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, it doesn't sound like you were like, if you had chores to do, were you thanked, or was that the expectation?
no.
Neither?
I live in the house. I am a contributor. My parents earn money or through sweat equity or something, and I live there. I exist. I breathe the air. I don't do any of that. So chores are just part of the deal.
Right. So obviously you're telling me, no, I wasn't, you are not, you did not receive a lot of appreciation growing up, is what I'm hearing. You were loved. I'm not saying you weren't loved. I'm not saying you weren't cared for, respected, all those other things. But for you to say kids were not to be appreciated.
Well, kids should do all the appreciating. Somebody makes food for us. Somebody buys us things.
It's a two-way street, though.
Huh.
Well, you've answered the question. I mean, I think. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think you've addressed it, because to you it's an expectation versus a
Need.
right. You don't want to, it's like saying, thanks so much for blinking. I really appreciate you breathing today. Like, those are things you did. So you don't see your behavior, whether it was chores or performing well in sports or school or any of those things.
Never in sports, but
well, come on. You're a runner. That's a sport. You're a runner.
I don't get hit by cars and I stay out of ditches.
Unless there's a Jeep involved in a hedge. I don't know. It could go dangerous.
Story. True story.
Yeah.
True story.
So I think, I don't think you're off base, but it is interesting that to you it's just.
And if you would be so kind, because I do greatly appreciate you opening up your heart and your life and your story to us. We would love to have a second hour another day.
Georgie,
Not now, but in a couple weeks or whatever, because there's so much more I do want to ask. But I want to conclude for tonight with the fact that your lowest emotional need, and this is so hilarious to me as well, is support. So there's encouragement, which actually for you is high, and support is low. Encouragement is, Georgie, you can do this. I believe in you. You're going to bang this out. You're awesome. And you're like, yes. Support is, Georgie, let me help you do this.
Look at her face.
For those of you not watching, she threw up, swallowed it, and started counting lights in the ceiling.
There's like one right here.
But for somebody who, well, I have to do my job. I have to get this done. This is the bottom line, and it's my responsibility.
That's what it is. It's my responsibility.
My
There's ownership And there's pride in ownership. So you don't want anybody else helping you do it because, gosh darn it, you are capable. And having somebody come alongside you and help you do it somehow makes you think you're not capable because they want to help you.
Or I'm just really fussy.
About
sure,
how
there's
it's
Or
done.
that.
Is that about how it's done?
That is
Yes.
me.
I'm looking straight at Amy when I'm saying this. If you want something done right, do it yourself. And I know that my way is not the only way or
But
the
it's
right
your
way.
way.
But when it blows up in my face, I know how to do the cleanup. When somebody else's way blows up, it's just a mess. My way, it's organized chaos.
But it's organized.
Exactly. Or at least I
And
know
the-
where the pieces
And
are.
it's organized
And the-
your way, yeah.
Well, and the outcome is, if not predictable, relatable or understandable.
100%.
Yeah, you actually went negative on the support.
I saw that. That
Did
was
I
the first thing I looked at.
Yeah.
Your negative one.
Which isn't always remarkable, but that's your only negative. Like I've had people that the highest is 10, the lowest is -10. So you had a -1, but
That's not too bad.
except that it's your lowest. So it doesn't really matter what the number is. It's clearly the lowest because you only have a few that are low.
Yeah, your other lowest is 3. Oh, you have a 2.
I like to generalize
have a
it.
2.
Think of like the negative scores as like they repulse you. You know,
Well, any of your lowest do though. You could have your lowest could be
but Georgie,
positive.
does
all
this mean you don't
relative.
want to
It's all
ride home because
relative.
you can
Yeah.
get home yourself? I believe in you. Or I'm going to come alongside you and be like, would you like a ride home? I'll drive you to your
Well, she
car.
also has a high need for security.
If-
So
Well, I'm driving.
she's going to
so-
want to make sure she
if
gets
you
home.
Buckle
offered
up.
me to drive your car home, even with the GPS, that would be a decision you would regret. Remember, I'm so bad at directions.
I did like 90% of this from memory.
That
I
impressed
put
me.
most of it because
That
and then we
impressed me.
turned on Westward Ho and she thought I was making it up. I was like, no, we really
And
do.
I was
Turned on
giggling.
a street called Westward Ho.
I was giggling.
Oh, did I just give out too much information on the?
Well, and now here's a day inside the life of my head. I'm sitting here going, every time she speaks of it, you, Georgie, speak of a deficiency or an inadequacy in yourself, you whisper.
That's probably not by accident.
we're gonna end episode 214 this way. Let's call it. We're gonna call it Georgie Part 1.
Part 1, baby.
I'm excited.
Could be an extended series.
We've gotten the.
I hope
we've
I have the
gotten
attention span.
The
It's
preliminary.
not a book. You'll be fine.
The preliminary info on Georgie's history and a
Fascinating story.
sneak
thanks.
peek of her emotional needs, and maybe part 2 can be delving deep. So
People
we'll be
bingo.
excited for that.
That was actually
I'm
her
making
first boyfriend.
cards.
Delvin Deep.
Was that his name? Delvin?
Delvin,
She met him in, never mind.
there was only like 1 or 2, so and neither was named that.
That's too bad. That would have made a great story.
That would have done.
Let's have more great stories. But that's it for 214. Please make sure to give us a like or follow on social media. Visit us at lunchtimeinrome.com. And while there, you too can take our relational needs questionnaire. Thanks for joining us at the table for Lunchtime in Rome.
Bye.
Adios.
You always say adios. Bye.